Welcome to today's Daily Dose of Awesome, your 15 minutes of motivation, inspiration, and education brought to you by Elite Marketing Pro. My name is Vitaly. I'm your host for today, and I'm Chief Copywriter here at Elite Marketing Pro. And today we're going to talk about 6 ways to make your message irresistible, to make your message more compelling, to make it so that it's impossible for your prospects to ignore what you're saying. So let's see. So we'll make sure we have people popping on. Hey guys, welcome to the call or to this live broadcast. So I do see we have some people popping on. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me and see me. Great. So let's talk about how do you make your message more compelling? How do you make it more irresistible? And that is one of your goals in your, hey, Carrie, Courtney, I see Teresa just joined us. Welcome to the call. So that is one of the challenges in marketing. It's how do you make your message so that it's so good and so compelling that people just simply can't ignore you. Because today, there's so many advertisers out there. If you're advertising on Facebook, which most people watching this today are either advertising on Facebook or posting on Facebook, and there are a slew of advertisers out there. Like, you're not the only one that's showing up in your prospect's newsfeed, right? So how do you make yourself different? How do you make that connection with your audience? And that is your goal when you're putting together your ads, or when you're writing an email, or maybe just writing a short post, Facebook post. Your goal is to make a connection with your audience. Your goal is to say something that's going to leave an impression on them and make them want to forget what they were doing, maybe scrolling the news feed or watching a video or whatever they were doing, and pay attention to you for that brief moment. Okay, that's the goal, right? The end result is, of course, you want to make sales and you want to maybe bring people into your business, but that's not going to happen until you make a connection. And the way you make a connection is you make your message stand out and jump out at them. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I'm going to give you 6 things, kind of a checklist. It's not 6 steps. It's more of a 6 kind of 6 ways that you can amplify your message and make it a little bit more exciting and a little bit more memorable, certainly a lot more compelling. All right. So let's see, what do we have? I'm just going to, from time to time, check some comments. Amy says, we can hear and see you. That's great. Melinda, Noella, Angel, Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. Great. So the first, especially if this is not an audience that is not familiar with you. So if you're advertising and you're trying to attract people to your tribe, the first thing you have to do is you want to make sure that your message is relevant. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, relevant means that when your prospect sees your ad or sees your post, they have to know that this is for them. They have to know that you're talking to them and not just to anybody out there. So what I'm talking about here is saying something that's going to resonate with them. I'll give you an example. So we're dealing with in a market with network marketers, right? We're talking to people who are in direct sales and network marketing. And so what can you say that's going to be of relevance to that audience? So I'll give you an example of my story, okay? And your story is different, but I'm sure you have something in your story that you can say that's going to resonate with your audience as well. So when I got started in network marketing, actually it was more of a direct sales business. I was 19 years old. I had a big warm market, but it was not a very good warm market because I had very little credibility in it because I was so young. So my first 3, almost 4 months in the business, I went to see a lot of people. I talked to a lot of people that I knew. I talked to a lot of family members and relatives. I invited people to meetings. Pretty much everybody said no. I kept hearing no, no, no. Some of the people that said they'll come to the meeting almost never showed up. And even the ones that I knew really, really well that came to the meeting, they walked away kind of saying, what is this? I'm not interested in this. I went on 25 different actual kitchen table appointments. I brought a flip chart with me, a yellow pad, and I sat down and talked to them about what we do and who we are and what we do and how we can help that particular family. And everybody, all 25 said no. All right. So when I tell that story, if you're involved in network marketing, direct sales, anything like that, you will automatically resonate with that because your story may be different, but you can probably feel some of that pain, some of that rejection because you could resonate with that. And that's what I'm talking about, being relevant. So when you post something, make sure that it's relevant to your audience. Super important. When there's a connecting point with relevancy, when your story is relevant to their pains or maybe their hopes and their desires or their frustrations and their struggles, there's an immediate bond, okay? Super important. The next thing is make it personal. Talk about yourself. Now you can't just talk about yourself and not talk about them, which I'm going to get back to that in a second. But you need to make sure you say something personal. Like when I just told that brief story, that was a personal story. You know, I showed a little bit of my vulnerability, right? I mentioned how I felt rejected and it was frustrating and I had zero results. I had zero people join, nobody bought, nobody joined. I couldn't sign up anybody for 3 months. And so by revealing a little bit of yourself, of your story, what happens is people get to know you. And that's one of the most important things that you want to accomplish is you want your people who you're trying to attract into your audience, into your tribe, to get to know you, because that is what's going to help. That's what's going to help you get people to like you and trust you. And that nobody buys from anybody that they don't like and they don't trust. So if you want to establish credibility, if you want to establish that like and trust, you have to make sure that people get to know who you are. And the way you do that is by revealing a little bit of your life. So if you're posting about business and you never mention anything about your family or what you're doing or maybe vacations you're taking, then people don't know who you are, right? They only know the business side of you. So reveal a little bit of your personal side. The more personal you get with people, the more they're going to get to know you. The more they're going to get to know you, the more that like and trust is going to, and the quicker that's going to happen. And you want to develop trust as quickly as possible. So relevancy and being relevant and getting personal in your message, super important. The next thing is story. I think story is the kind of the glue that holds your message together. Because when you talk about concepts and when you talk about strictly benefits or principles and philosophies, that's good, but it's kind of dry. But when you inject your personal story into it, when you talk, when you mention a story about yourself, or maybe a story of somebody else, or maybe you just talk about something that you saw in the news, stories create kind of this mesmerizing effect on people because we are hardwired to pay attention to stories. Stories are engaging, they're entertaining. And so what happens is when you start telling a story, immediately the resistance in your audience goes down and they start paying attention. So like, for example, when you go to see a movie, now you know it's not a true story. Well, unless the movie is a true story, but you know this is a movie, right? You know this is not real life. But yet for an hour and a half or 2 hours, if it's a good movie, if it's a good story, if it's got a good plot, you're fully engaged because it's a story. And so, of course, you don't need to tell long 2-hour stories, but by mentioning brief stories in your ads or in your Facebook posts or in your emails, in your blog posts, you're going to create that same effect, that same emotional effect on your audience. All right. So tell stories. And there are lots of resources out there. I recommend you read books about stories. I also recommend you look at movies and look at Hollywood and look at how good they're doing at telling stories. And if you see a movie that really gets you emotionally, ask yourself, what is it about that movie or what is it about that story that made me so emotional or that made me connect with that hero, with whoever was on the screen or whoever was the hero in that story, maybe in a book. Okay, so reverse engineer a little bit what you see with other stories and see how you can use that in your own ads, in your own marketing, your own messages. Okay, so story is super important. The next thing is use emotion. People buy emotionally. People don't buy logically. They buy emotionally, but then they back up their decisions logically. So what you want to do is you want to tell a story or you want to connect with people, but you want to use emotion. You want to use emotionally charged words. When I put together a message, whether it's an email or an ad or a sales letter or even a blog post, anytime I write something down, I always go back and see how can I make it a little bit more riveting? How can I make it more compelling? How can I make it more emotional? You do that by using certain words. You do that by hitting on certain pain points, and you also do it by talking about the goals and desires that your audience will resonate with. That's how you make it more emotional. We don't buy things for logical reasons. I know you've probably heard that before, but we buy things for emotional reasons, but you really have to think about, like, when you buy something, when you buy a piece of clothes, or maybe you go buy a certain type of car or a house in a certain neighborhood, or when you go take vacations, why do you do it? You can logically justify why you're doing it or why you bought that particular car or that particular brand of clothes. But the reality is you did it for emotional reasons. Okay, you did it because it made you feel good, because maybe it elevated your status. There are lots of reasons why people buy, but usually they start with emotional reasons. And then, of course, logic has to be there too. So if you're trying to get people to see the value of your product, make it emotional. think about how you can connect with them on an emotional level. What is it about your product or your business opportunity that's going to help them, again, on an emotional level, okay? Think about that first before you bring in the logic, before you bring in the facts, all right? So make it emotional. The next thing is use curiosity. This is a super powerful way to make your message really irresistible, which is what our topic is today. We are, as human beings, we are very curious by nature. If we see something and it provokes our curiosity, we want to know the answer to that question. So I'll give you a very brief example. When I use the two words how to, like this is a very famous headline formula, how to blank, how to build your business, how to explode your business, how to use the internet to grow your team, right? So when I use these two words, how to, it immediately raises a question in your head, even though I'm not asking a question, but it raises a question. If I tell you something, how to do something, and assuming this is of interest to you, assuming it's relevant, you immediately want to know, yeah, how do you do that? And so that raises curiosity. That's a very basic way to explain it, but it's very powerful. And there are other techniques you can use, but start there. When you're putting together your ad, when you're putting together your Facebook post or a blog post or an email, start with a how-to question. And then you can edit it, you can kind of tweak it later, but start with how to. So for example, if I say how to recruit more but prospect less, for somebody who's interested in growing their business and sick and tired of prospecting and rejection, that's going to be extremely curiosity provoking, because they're going to want to know, yeah, how do you recruit more people and prospect less? If you're dealing in the fitness industry, or let's say diet industry, you can say how to lose weight by eating fats or by eating fatty foods. This is super curiosity provoking, because we've been taught mostly that you should avoid fat foods, right? You should avoid high calorie foods. And you're saying, here's how to lose weight by actually eating fats. Okay, and it's true. You can lose weight by eating fats. You just have to make sure you eat the right kind of fats. But that's a whole different story. But that's a curiosity-provoking statement. So injecting things like that into your message will make it super curiosity-provoking and will make it a lot more compelling. All right? So then the last kind of way that I want to help you make sure that you make your message irresistible is always make sure when you're done when you put your message together, go back, look at it, and ask yourself, am I answering the number one question that my prospect has? And do you guys know what that is? Before I actually tell you what that is, I want to see in the comments, assuming that these are in real time, do you guys know what the number one question that people have when they're reading your message? There might be a delay, so I don't know. Maybe you guys are answering. I'll have to go back and look at it later. But I'll tell you what that is. The number one question your prospects have is, what's in it for me? If I'm reading your ad, if I'm reading your message, I want to know, bottom line is, what's in it for me? How is this going to help me? So you can tell your story. You can talk about, you can use emotion, make it personal, all that good stuff, right? But at the end of the day, I want to know what's in it for me. Okay? How is this going to help me? How is this going to benefit me? And so you always have to be thinking about benefits for your prospect and how it's going to help them. So like, for example, a very basic example. I have a highlighter here, okay? You guys have all seen a highlighter before. Just want to make sure I'm looking at the comments here. So this highlighter, all it does is it highlights stuff, right? But the reason people buy it is not to highlight stuff. People buy it because they want to make their life better and easier by emphasizing certain things that they're reading, okay? By making sure that it's kind of a shortcut, right? They're using this to highlight stuff in the book so they can go back later and they don't have to search through the entire book. It's all highlighted. Okay, that's how it makes it easier for them. That's what's in it for them. It makes it super easy to emphasize things in a book and highlight things in a book so that it's easy for you to find it. Okay, that's what it does. And so when you look at any product, at anything, any object that you have around the house, think about, what's the benefit? Like, why did I buy this? What is it ultimately that I wanted this to do? All right. Books are the same way. Like, I have a bunch of books. You guys, I'm sure, have a bunch of books on your shelves. Why did you buy these books? Did you buy them because you wanted to read them? No, you bought them because you wanted the information in the book. You wanted to, and not just the information, but you wanted whatever the promise of that information in the book, how to make your ads better, how to make your marketing better, how to become more successful, how to set goals so that you can live a free life. Whatever the topic of the book is, that's what you wanted. It wasn't the book. It wasn't the information. It was the end result that the book promised you. And so that's the bottom line to your ads and to your messages, that it has to be driven by what's in it for your audience, by what's in it for your prospect. All right, what's in it for me? There we go. Now I'm starting to see these comments. Must be a delay. So cool. All right, stories. Courtney says, stories sell, facts tell. Absolutely. Somebody was asking, and then I'm getting it's getting a little stuck in here, but somebody's asking, how do you know your audience pain points? That's a great question. You know your audience pain points by knowing who you're talking to. So you have to do some research and think about your audience and what is it that they want, right? What is their life like? Why would they be interested in your message? That's how you know your audience pain points. You think about who you're talking to, and you find out either if you're in that market, then just look at your life and look at what look at yourself as that ideal prospect, and ask yourself, what are my pains and frustrations when it comes to this business? Okay, what are my goals and desires? That's a great question, because you do have to know your audience. So you do have to understand what their pain points are. So, yep. See lots of comments there about that. Very cool. So that's it, guys. 6 ways, right? Relevant, personal, story, use emotion, make sure you use curiosity, and the bottom line is always think about what's in it for them, for your audience. You focus on these six things every time you sit down to write a message, and your messages, your ads, your emails, your blog posts, your videos are going to be a lot more compelling and a lot more interesting, and are going to be irresistible and pretty much impossible to ignore if you hit on all those things. All right. So with that, guys, I thank you for tuning in. If you're brand new to this broadcast, if you're not part of Elite Marketing Pro community, then I urge you to go to elitemarketingpro.com and check out our 10-day recruiting bootcamp so that you can learn how to use the internet to build your business. And with that, thanks for hopping on, guys. I look forward to seeing you next time. All right. Take care, everybody.